Hey guys, and welcome on our talk about machine translation systems for low resource African languages. I am Bonaventure Dosu. I am actually a master student in data engineering at Jacobs University, co-founder of ADI. I am member of the Masakane community and also of the Black in AI community. So yeah, Chris, I will let you introduce yourself to the audience and had the lead.
Thank you very much, Bona. My name is Chris Emezwe. I'm from Nigeria, currently a master's student at the Technical University of Munich, studying mathematics and data science. So the highly acclaimed Kenyan writer and academic Ngugi wa Thiong'o said, and I quote, African intellectuals must do for the languages and cultures what all other intellectuals in history have done for theirs. This quote, which underlies the importance of investing in African languages and by extension, the African culture, has been a source of great motivation for our project and research. In this presentation, we'll briefly describe machine translation, discuss the state of machine translation for African languages and on Benin languages. Then we'll describe the FFR project, which includes the data set, the model, and the results obtained, and the long-term plan. Machine translation involves automatic translation from one language to another. So we have the source language and we have the target language. So for example, in this example, we have like, thank you for your attention in French and translating it with our model to fun. African languages in general, they are the key to the African culture. And languages are the key to the culture of the society. So in this case, African languages are also the key to the African culture. They are the means by which the African traditions and the values are shared, are conveyed, and are preserved. That's why machine translation of African languages is very, very important, which can be seen in this quote from the researcher Jade Abbott and Laura Martinez. It summarizes the impact of machine translation of African languages on the social, educational, and industrial evolution of the country, or Africa, the continent. Other countries like Europe and continents like Europe, US, China have long realized this, the importance of languages and investing in the languages, and they have long invested largely in advertising and like fostering the use of their language in the world. And that's why we see so many technological and scientific innovations in English. While in contrast, the African languages, although representing 30% of the world languages as seen on the right, they have very little to no international recognition. And therefore, the African culture is greatly misconstrued for decades now. It has been like that for a long time. So two decades ago, actually, African writers, scholars, and academics that came together in a conference in Eritrea to address this issue, leading to the Asmara Declaration, which highlighted the need for Africans to work on the African languages in order to bring them to the map and preserve them. However, fast forwarding 2 decades later, African languages are still underrepresented for the most part in machine translation. This can be seen in many spheres like technology, education, research. For example, to the left of our presentation, we compare the number of supported languages and the number of supported African languages in major translation services like Google Translate, Yandex Translate, which is used in Russia, and DeepL Translate. With Google Translate having only 13 of the over 2,000 African languages and the others having far less, we see that African languages are highly underrepresented. Furthermore, the chart on the right shows the number of papers that mention research in Somali, an African language, which is in orange color, against Dutch, of a non-African language, which is in blue color. And we see the great difference on the level of research done in these like African versus non-African languages. The problems facing machine translation stem from what we call low resourceness. Low resourceness, lack of focus, reproducibility, no benchmarks, low discoverability. These are the problems as summarized by Jade Abbott and Laura Martinez, facing law, facing machine translation in African languages. So in order to tackle the problems of like machine translation in African languages, we need to try to make efforts to solve the problems in the previous slide. Speaking of efforts, there have been efforts over the years on communities, organizations, NGOs, companies, and key people have put in a great deal of effort towards natural language processing and solving the related issues to machine translation in African languages. And some of these include like Black in AI, AI for Development, Masakane, Translators Without Borders, Deep Learning in Dabur, Data Science Nigeria, Data Science Africa, Zindi, InstaDeep, Hanoki, Parrot AI, Gaussian AI, EDI, Itio NLP, and of course the Lacuna Fund, which was recently introduced to sponsor dataset collection in African languages. And these are just some of the numerous individual and joint efforts towards, fostering machine translation in African languages. Now, when we come to African languages are very diverse. They contain many branches and sub-branches. The Benin languages, for example, belong to the Niger-Congo group of languages, like the Niger-Congo family of languages. And going down the tree, we come to Fon language. So my colleague Bonaventure Dosu will give an introduction to Fon language, as well as talk about the FFR project and the FFR dataset.
Okay, thank you, Chris, for summarizing throughout the machine translation problem on our languages and the challenge. So, speaking about Benin, my home country is a country of West Africa, bordered by Togo, Nigeria, Burkina Faso, Niger, and everything. And over there, we have many languages, more than 50 languages. Um, the official language over there is French, the colonial language, the administrative language. But when we put apart French, we can say, or I can say that Fon is the most spoken language with being spoken by more than 38.5% of the population. And among that ratio, 17% have it as their own language. I have it as my own language. I mean, the first language, mother tongue, and everything. And as many others African languages, Fon is very tonal and more spoken than than written. And this actually results in a big lack of documentation that makes actually hard the study, including working on NMT, creating NMT systems, creating data sets and everything. So Chris previously mentioned font in Igbo. So why did we choose to focus on Igbo? And also, of course, there is Yoruba spoken in Benin, but why did we choose to rather focus on font? The main reason is Yoruba and Igbo have been and still being subject already to numerous research studies. They are already in the Google Translate, although not really perfect as it should be, but their effort already been done, which is not the case for font. So through our work, we want actually to contribute to the preservation, expansion, and the promotion, uh, not only of the Benin languages in general, but also of the African languages. Yes. But of course, this presentation will focus on the Fon language that we did our work on. So here, I would like just to present two great professors, Professor Eugène Zi, who is the Dean of the uh, Institut de Formation de Recherche en Informatique, is a very great, let me say, one of the first, if not the only one, institute of computer science. Over there they teach software engineering and computer security over there. So with Dr. Lale here, they worked on many tasks for, like for instance, the automatic phone-based continuous speech recognition. They've also worked on fuzzy-based algorithm for phone-based continuous speech segmentation and so on and so on. And yeah, so this is a little bit, or let me say, funny, but those two great men have been my teachers, my professors at the university. And yeah, now we are working together on the same interest, and it feels like the student is following the step of its professor, his professor. So now we talk about data contributors because, of course, it hasn't been we couldn't have done all of this alone. So Chris mentioned the Masakani community, which was the first community to help us to get access to the data that help us to start this journey with the GW300 dataset. We also have Fabrice Yocluno and Ricardo Avanvlame. So both linguistic students back in Benin, and they really help us to make Google Forms, to be active on the social network and be able to ask for users, for Benin citizens, for daily practical sentences. So the FFR project in general, or maybe in specificity, we want actually to create efficient translation system for African languages that will not only translate between African languages themselves, like maybe from Fon to Igbo, but also translate between Western. So actually the Fon French project is actually that case that we are translating from an African language to a Western language. And this we actually will ensure the safeguard and the promotion of these languages, which are integral part of our culture. Because if you take a man, if you take back his language, he cannot express himself anymore. So what can you actually expect from him? So like I mentioned before, there is a profound lack of documentation in these extremely tonal languages. And it was important for us, or we could not pretend to building a very great or good machine translation system without having enough of qualitative and quantitative data made of written transcriptions, expressions, vocabulary, dictionary as much as possible. So that was our first step in our project FFR, to go for data, look for data, and build a very big corpus. So here we summarize the different steps for our data set. Like I mentioned before, we first of all got access to the GW300 that is made basically of biblical text provided to us by the Masakani community, which has the sample, the number of samples that are indicated there, so around 27,000. And we also found a website, Benin Languages, which provided us with, I think, in average 80,000 of French sentences. But those sentences were incorrect, incomplete, in existence, and some translations were just mismatching. So what we did was simply including some French native. I included myself with the two other we mentioned. Chris also helped, even though he's not from the language. And except that, we also, like I said before, looked for practical daily dialogues. And this helps us actually to have a better version of the data set, which has actually decreased in quantity, in number, but improved in quality. But still, there are programs that we are working daily on improving. So for the analysis and the data processing, like many researchers have shown before, the diacritics, the accent on every single word or every place of a word in a word or in a sentence play major role. We can see, for instance, the examples on the left, to, which mean ear, to, which means see, to, which means country, and to, which means father. All of those ones are ramifications of the word to. So uh, because we wanted our model to be able to capture those different meaning, we instead used the NFC form over the NFD form. So using NFC help us avoid or to be able somehow to keep those accents, and it helps our model actually to reduce lexical disambiguation and help to bring more meaningful and contextual, let me say, translations. So now I will let now the, the lead to Chris to talk about our sources and I mean our result and our observation, and then go on.
Okay, thank you, Bonaventure. So, some of the important observations we made were, if you look at the second column, so our source is, Bona, how do you say that?
Samosindo.
Amasindo, beautiful. And the target is in French, and in English, it's like something like anointing with medicine. And then the prediction from the model is something like massaging with a remedy, something like medicine. So what we discovered is the target and the prediction are similar in context, like the meaning, but different in the the words that they use, so different lexically. And for the second column, we have, how do you say that?
Try
Where?
to try to guess it. Try to read it.
Where?
No, try
Where?
to read it. Yes, closely. Yeah, it's
Okay.
not be, but bring it down is be.
Where? Okay.
Exactly.
Where? So the target is in French, of course, and in English, it's like grow new leaves, and the prediction is like spirit of life. So the target and the prediction don't match, but the prediction is similar to the real meaning. So
Yes.
it's similar than the target. So you could say like the model had some not so correct targets, but the model was given some not so correct targets, but it was still able to correct prediction for the given source. So these were
Yes.
two main things we noticed. And actually this made us like go, because for example, for the second column, if you use a blue score to calculate this, you will have a low blue score for the second column because it's counting the number of n-grams and word match. Yeah. So this made us like go into reevaluating the blue score for African languages. There have been a couple of papers on generally reevaluating the blue score. There've also been papers to support the idea that blue scores may not be so convenient for African languages, especially because of their morphological richness, and like Bona explained, the diacritics, which give the language, the word, a completely different meaning. Yeah. So moving on to the next slide, we show you a demo video of the Fund website. The Fund website is basically like an open source website which we created for people to actually interact with the model. We believe that interacting with the model is the best way to get a feel of what we've created. So in the video, we have, of course, the website is still being like developed and still being made better. Yeah.
Exactly. So, for instance, here we have Je t'aime mon chéri, which means I love you, dear mom. We have also here passe une bonne journée, mon frère, like I wish you to have a nice day, my dear friend, my brother, and everything. So the system actually is not only able to translate from to French, but also to go backward and translate from, let me say, from English, from French to French, like you can see over there. And we've added the possibility because we believe that is a work that everybody should join. So in
Yeah.
case the translation, a user is not satisfied by the translation, we just provided a very simple sample or form to allow him to give his translation and he to give a score of confidence, how confident he is that this translation is good. Yeah. So
Yeah.
now, Chris, I think we should move on to the
Yeah.
um, feedbacks.
Yeah, so we've received really good feedback from the public. One of the major ones, besides our papers, like publishing this some of this project in the ICLR 2020 African NLP workshop and the We NLP workshop at ACL. We also got featured in media in BBC, for example. We got featured in Afrotech, Voice of America, Afrotech on the May 18, 2020. We got featured in the AI Expo event for which looks at artificial intelligence technologies for Africa. So it was a huge event to discuss artificial intelligence technologies in Africa. And we got featured in the newsletter. Also in Germany, some German journalists and media reached out to us because they found our work interesting, especially
Yes.
since we're like coming to Germany to study. Russia too featured us by reaching out to us and creating an interview because it was very interesting to see something being done in African languages. Also, the Benin community in Africa, they got to know about our project and they were very, I wouldn't say proud, but they were very happy to see, something being done on their language. And this helped us like gather lots of help and good. Also in the Bremen University where Bona is a student and he got a feature. The university wanted to know more about the translation program, and another news agency in Germany talking about politics in general and Africa also wrote a piece on it. Yeah. So we would like to acknowledge Masakane. Masakane is an online community for people working on um, machine translation and generally NLP for African languages. And they give you it's just a group of people working together and supporting each other. So the vibe is really good. It's motivating. So without the mentorship we received from Masakane, namely Jada Bot and Julia Kritzer from Google AI, we probably wouldn't have been able to make this project the way it is to the stage that it is. So we would like to give a huge acknowledgement to Masakane. And with that, I would say thank you for your attention. And how you say that in French? Merci pour votre attention.
Yes,
And in
merci pour
fun,
votre attention.
and in fun,
In fun, yes,
and Antonomy. Okay.
exactly. In fun, écrivier chez nous.
Okay.
So,
So
thank you for your attention. Like Chris said, we hope that you learned a lot of new things about us from our talks, and we can't wait to see you and to answer any question if you have. So, thank you, and we hope you enjoyed this.